You have an enemy, someone who sabotages your relationships, destroys your opportunities, and keeps you trapped in patterns you can't escape. And here's the disturbing truth: that enemy is you, or more precisely, a part of you that you've spent your entire life trying to hide. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the collection of everything you've rejected about yourself. Your rage, your jealousy, your secret desires. But what if I told you that this rejected part contains your greatest power? What if the very traits you've been suppressing are exactly what you need to become whole? Today, we're going into the depths of your psyche to retrieve what you've buried. Your shadow is calling, and ignoring it any longer might cost you everything. The hidden self. Imagine you're standing in front of a mirror, but you can only see half of yourself, the polished half, the acceptable half, the half you show at job interviews, on first dates, and at family dinners. But there's another half, the part you've spent decades pushing into the darkness. Jung discovered that every personality has a light side and a dark side. The persona is what you show the world. The shadow is what you hide from it. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Your shadow doesn't contain just your flaws. It contains your power, your passion, your authentic desires, everything that was too intense, too wild, too unacceptable for the people around you. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. As children, we learn quickly what gets approval and what gets punishment. So we split ourselves. The acceptable traits stay in the light. Everything else gets buried. But buried doesn't mean gone. It means hidden, growing stronger in the dark and leaking out in ways you don't understand. Have you ever wondered why you react so intensely to certain people? Why someone can trigger rage or disgust that seems disproportionate? That's your shadow knocking on the door. And what you do next determines whether it becomes your prison or your power. Projection trap. Here's a psychological truth that will change how you see every conflict in your life. Whatever you hate most in others exists within you. Jung called this projection. The traits you can't accept in yourself get projected onto other people. That coworker who annoys you with their arrogance. You have arrogance you won't acknowledge. That friend whose neediness disgusts you. You have needs you've learned to suppress. The people who trigger you the most are mirrors reflecting your rejected self. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Every time you point a finger, 3 fingers point back at you, not as an accusation, but as an invitation to reclaim lost parts of yourself. Think about the last person who really got under your skin. Not mild irritation, real emotional charge. What quality did they display? Now ask yourself honestly, where does that quality exist in me, perhaps in a different form? The intensity of your reaction reveals the depth of your disowned self. If this is making you rethink your judgments, hit like and subscribe, because self-awareness is just the beginning. Most people go their entire lives projecting their shadow onto enemies, partners, and politicians, never realizing they're fighting ghosts of their own making. But there's an even more destructive pattern that keeps the shadow locked away. The golden shadow. Most people think the shadow is only negative, their dark impulses and shameful desires. But Jung revealed something surprising. We also repress our positive qualities. This is called the golden shadow. Think about it. Have you ever admired someone so intensely that it almost hurt? An artist whose creativity amazes you, a speaker whose confidence captivates you, a person whose freedom makes you ache with longing. That admiration reveals your potential. The qualities you worship in others are often qualities you possess, but have never allowed yourself to express. Maybe you learned that standing out was dangerous. Maybe success felt like betrayal of your struggling family. Maybe you were told that wanting more was selfish. So you buried your brilliance right alongside your darkness. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. The golden shadow explains why so many talented people feel like imposters, why capable individuals stay small, why potential remains permanently unrealized. You're not lacking ability, you're hiding it, even from yourself. Studies show that people who integrate their golden shadow experience dramatic increases in creativity, confidence, and life satisfaction. The power you seek isn't out there somewhere. It's buried within you, waiting to be reclaimed. But first, you need to understand what originally forced it into hiding. Childhood wounds. Your shadow was born in childhood. Every time a parent said, "Don't be so dramatic," A piece of your emotional intensity went underground. Every time a teacher said stop showing off, a piece of your brilliance dimmed. Every time you were punished for anger, shamed for desire, or mocked for sensitivity, another fragment of your authentic self was exiled to the shadow. Children are survival machines. They learn instantly what behaviors keep them safe and loved, and what behaviors bring rejection or pain. This isn't a criticism of your parents. They did what their parents did to them. It's a recognition of how the shadow forms. The problem is that childhood adaptations become adult prisons. The anger you suppressed at age 7 to avoid punishment might be exactly what you need at age 37 to set boundaries. The ambition you buried to fit in with your family might be the key to the fulfillment you desperately seek. Reclaim. Psychologist Robert Bly describes it as a long bag we drag behind us, every year adding more rejected pieces of ourselves into that bag, making us smaller while our shadow grows larger. What you were told was wrong with you might be what's most right about you. The very traits that got you in trouble as a child could be the exact strengths you need as an adult. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to fight their shadow instead of integrating it. Shadow leakage. You cannot imprison a part of yourself forever. The shadow always finds a way out, usually at the worst possible moments. This is called shadow leakage, and it explains behaviors that seem to come from nowhere. The devoted husband who suddenly has an affair, the kind person who explodes in disproportionate rage, the health-conscious professional who binges in secret. These aren't moral failures. They're the shadow erupting because it's been suppressed too long. The more you repress, the more explosive the eventual release. Think about pressure building in a sealed container. You can ignore it for a while, but eventually something gives. The shadow works the same way. Every desire denied, every emotion suppressed, every part of yourself rejected adds pressure to the system. Leakage happens when containment fails, and the shadow has clever ways of leaking. Through passive-aggressive behavior, through jokes that aren't really jokes, through dreams that disturb you, through addictions that numb you, through relationships that repeat the same painful patterns. What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size. The solution isn't more suppression. It isn't more willpower. It isn't becoming a better person by pushing down your darkness even harder. The solution is integration, and that requires a completely different approach. Integration path. Shadow integration is not about becoming your worst impulses. It's about acknowledging them, understanding them, and channeling them consciously. There's a crucial difference between acting out your shadow and integrating it. Acting out means being controlled by impulses you don't understand, the rage that destroys relationships, the greed that corrupts integrity, the lust that betrays commitments. Integration means claiming these energies consciously and directing them purposefully. Anger integrated becomes assertiveness and the power to set boundaries. Greed integrated becomes healthy ambition and the drive to provide. Sexual energy integrated becomes creativity, passion, and life force. 1. Notice your triggers without judgment. 2. Ask what rejected part is seeking expression. 3. Find healthy channels for that energy. 4. Gradually claim it as part of you. Jung didn't say eliminate your darkness. He said integrate it, make it conscious. Bring it into relationship with your values and intentions. A warrior who denies their aggression becomes dangerous. They project it onto enemies or it leaks out in destructive ways. A warrior who integrates their aggression becomes powerful. They can protect, defend, and fight for what matters. The difference isn't the presence of darkness. It's the relationship you have with it. But integration requires something that most people are terrified to do: facing the dark. Integration begins with looking at what you've spent your life avoiding. This is the hero's journey into the underworld, descending into your own psyche to retrieve what's been lost. And it's terrifying. Descent. What will you find down there? The shame you've hidden since adolescence, the rage you've never allowed yourself to feel, the desires that seem too dark to acknowledge. Most people will do anything to avoid this confrontation. They stay busy, stay distracted, stay on the surface of life, anything to avoid looking into their own depths. But here's the paradox that changed Jung's patience and can change you. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The very things you fear about yourself are often distorted versions of your greatest gifts. Your too much might be exactly enough for the life you're meant to live. Your inappropriate desires might be pointing toward authentic purpose. Your unacceptable emotions might contain wisdom you desperately need. Face your darkness, find your power. Every fairy tale knows this truth. The dragon guards the treasure. The monster protects the gold. You cannot get to your greatest gifts without confronting what frightens you most. And that confrontation begins with understanding what triggers you. Trigger wisdom. Your triggers are not problems to eliminate, they're doorways to self-knowledge. Every strong emotional reaction contains information about your shadow. Start paying attention. When does your anger flare beyond what the situation warrants? When does someone's behavior fill you with disgust? When do you feel that tight contraction of judgment? These reactions are pointing directly at your disowned self. Here's a practical exercise that Jung's followers have used for decades. Take a person who triggers you strongly. Write down every quality you hate about them. Be specific and unfiltered. Then read that list as a description of yourself. Not literally, you might not be arrogant in the exact same way, but somewhere in you lives a version of that quality you've refused to acknowledge. This is painful work. Your ego will resist. It will say, "But I'm not like that," which is exactly what someone who has repressed that quality would say. The stronger the resistance, the more important the work. What you cannot accept in yourself, you are condemned to encounter in others. Every trigger is an invitation. Every judgment is a mirror. Every strong reaction is your shadow asking to be seen. But there's one more piece that most people miss entirely. Creative power. The shadow contains enormous creative power. When you repress parts of yourself, you don't just lose negative qualities, you lose energy. Think of all the effort required to keep your shadow hidden. The constant vigilance, the careful editing of yourself, the exhausting performance of being acceptable. That energy could be building your dreams instead of maintaining your prison. Artists have always known this. The greatest creative works come from artists who dive into their shadow, their pain, their desire, their rage, their longing. They transform raw shadow material into something powerful and beautiful. No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. The same energy that fuels your dysfunction can fuel your greatness. The anger that destroys relationships can power your fight for justice. The sexuality you've shamed can become the passion that makes you magnetic. The ambition you've suppressed can drive you toward meaningful achievement. Integrated shadow energy feels different. It's not the brittle control of suppression. It's the fluid power of wholeness. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're channeling all of yourself toward what matters. This is why shadow work isn't just psychological hygiene. It's the path to your full creative potential. And it leads to something even more profound. Becoming whole. Jung's ultimate goal wasn't happiness or success. It was individuation. Becoming whole. Becoming who you were meant to be before the world told you who you should be. Wholeness, not perfection, is the goal. A whole person isn't someone who has eliminated their darkness. They are someone who has integrated it. They can be fierce when fierceness is needed, tender when tenderness serves, ambitious without apology, humble without weakness. They're not saints. They are complete human beings with access to the full spectrum of human experience, and they are infinitely more powerful than those still at war with themselves. Think about the people who truly inspire you. Not the ones who seem perfect, the ones who seem real, the ones who have clearly wrestled with their demons and come out transformed rather than sanitized. I'd rather be whole than good. This is the invitation of shadow work. Not to become a better person by cutting away your darkness, but to become a whole person by integrating it. To stop the exhausting war against yourself and finally become the complete being you were always meant to be. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your abandoned power, waiting in the darkness for you to come and claim it. Your shadow has been with you from the beginning, not as a curse, but as a container for everything you couldn't afford to be. And now, perhaps for the first time, you have the awareness to go back and retrieve what was lost. Claim your darkness, become whole. This isn't work that happens overnight. It's the work of a lifetime, layers upon layers of self-discovery, each one bringing you closer to who you really are. But every step matters. Every trigger examined, every projection recognized, every rejected part welcomed back home. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Your rage integrated becomes your power. Your desire integrated becomes your passion. Your darkness integrated becomes your depth. You don't become whole by being good. You become whole by being complete. If you made it this far, comment shadow integrated if you're ready to reclaim the power you've been hiding from yourself. Welcome to the Psyche Project. If this gave you something to think about, subscribe for more. Understanding yourself is the work of a lifetime.